دنیای ما، جامعه ما.
Our world, our community with Debbie Amini.
روز بخیر و سلام گرم من خدمت یکایک شما عزیزان شنونده به برنامه دیگری از دنیای ما، جامعه ما خوش آمدید. دبی امینی هستم و به همراه کارگردان فنی خوبمون خانم زهره نگهبان امروز در خدمت میهمان عزیز اسمبلی ممبر آدرین نظریان هستیم و از تجارب و اطلاعات ایشون و فعالیت‌هایی که در دیستریکت 46 ارائه میدند آگاه خواهیم شد. متذکر میشم که ایشون اولین ایرانی هستند که در کالیفرنیا استیت لجیسلیتیو انتخاب شدند. آقای نظریان خوش آمدید به برنامه امروز. We're welcome. We're so pleased to have you today.
Thank you, Debbie. It's an honor to be here with you.
Thank you. دوستان همونطوری که میدونید این برنامه هدیه‌ای است از رادیو ایران KIRN و جنبه تبلیغاتی برای میهمانان و متخصصین برنامه نداره و هدف فقط آگاهی رسانی و گفتگویی راجع به مسائل دنیای امروز و مطالب جامعه ماست. و اما من معرفی کوتاهی از آقای آدرین نظریان خدمتتون عرض می‌کنم که کمی بیشتر با ایشون و فعالیت‌هاشون آشنا بشید و بعد میپردازیم به سوالات و موضوعاتی که امروز اونها رو مورد بحث و گفتگو قرار خواهیم داد. آدرین نظریان was elected in November 2012 to represent California's 46th Assembly District, the first Iranian American elected to the California State Legislature. Prior to being elected, he served as Chief of Staff to Paul Krikorian in both Mr. Krikorian's capacity as Assistant Majority Leader in the California State Legislature and Los Angeles Council member. Mr. Nazarian also served as an aide to Congressman Brad Sherman and was appointed as a Special Assistant to the California Trade and Commerce Agency by former Governor Gray Davis. آقای نظریان اگه اجازه بدیم بریم شروع کنیم از ابتدا. یک توضیح بدین برای شنوندگان عزیز ما که دیستریکت 46 شامل چه شهرها و مناطقی میشه؟ What cities, what areas the district of 46 will cover?
Sure, thank you. First of all, 46, there are 80 assembly districts throughout California. So my district, and each district represents roughly about 500,000 population. My district is entirely in the city of Los Angeles, and it represents the communities of Valley Village, Valley Glen, Studio City, Sherman Oaks, Hollywood Hills. In fact, I think where this radio station is located right now, all the way up to Van Nuys, Panorama City, North Hills. And it's predominantly all in the San Fernando Valley areas.
Thank you so much. Would it be all right for you to explain to me and also our audience what is actually the difference and what are the responsibilities of a council member, assembly member, congress member? If you don't mind explaining that to us, I would really appreciate it.
No, my pleasure. And it's a great question also. So we have 4 levels of government. We have the federal government, which again has the 3 branches, the president, the legislature, and the judicial. Then we have state government, which is similarly aligned as well. You have the governor in the executive branch. You have the legislature with the state assembly and state senate. And then you have the state Supreme Court as well. Then you have the county government. California has 53 counties within the state itself. And then you have the city governments. So there, for example, in Los Angeles County, there are 88 cities, Los Angeles City being the largest city within the county. Now, each of these levels of government have their own respective roles. Federal government can help print money and also go to war, declare war, and also conduct trade agreements. You know, that's something very unique. Those 3 are very unique at the federal level. The state level, we do everything that the federal level does, minus the 3 that I just mentioned. But what ends up happening is the federal government, for example, says everyone needs to have health care. Here's a little bit of money that we're going to put aside and make sure that everyone gets healthcare coverage. Then it's up to the state governments to figure out how they implement that healthcare. And so that's why that one sentence from federal government becomes volumes and volumes of books and literature at the state level, because we delve into the details of how to make that happen. Then at the county level, we help implement those programs. That's why you have a lot of county level hospitals, for example, in healthcare, that address healthcare needs. So the county then addresses and implements the issues that the state level gives direction for and fills in the gaps. At the city level, it's much more just local attention. So the city doesn't handle a lot of healthcare related issues or social issues. The city instead focuses on planning and development, transportation, and public safety. So how is a community going to look like? Everything from planting trees all the way to what type of a building gets built on a certain lot of land, to public safety, first responders, police department, as well as fire departments. That's generally the breakdown of the 4 levels of government. Then you have, it's a little more complicated and tedious, but then you have special districts. So, or you will have specific districts like the school districts or water districts. In some cases, even, for example, a hospital district. So you have different districts addressing different needs within different jurisdictions.
I see. So basically, for the people who live in District 46, what are the areas that if they need help, they can come to you, ask for your help? And obviously, once they realize what are the areas that they can reach out to you for help, how they can ask for, how can they reach out to you?
Sure. So first of all, they can approach. Well, they can ask whatever needs that they may have in any jurisdiction, and my office is happy to help provide them direction into which level of government to talk to. So, for example, if it's immigration-related issues, it'll be the federal government. But sometimes people just feel comfortable in calling one office. So we're happy to forward them to the appropriate person, even if we're not handling that issue area. But for our purposes, if they lose their driver's license, they can call us, because the DMV, Department of Motor and Vehicle, is a state agency. If they need help with Medi-Cal because they haven't gotten some payments made, they can contact our office. These are the state functions that we can be of service with. If they need assistance with Caltrans, California Department of Transportation, because all the freeways, for example, are the state jurisdiction. They get federal funding, but they're primarily state jurisdiction. So if there are cleanups that need to happen along freeways, they contact my office. So anything that touches the state level of government, anything from water, transportation, education, in some cases also, they can contact my office and we can help them address whatever needs. Now, if they need to get a pothole fixed, that's a city level issue. Again, we're happy to put them in touch. If they contact our office for that, we're happy to put them in touch with the appropriate council district office in order to be able to get their concern addressed. How they can get in touch with us is very simple and straightforward. They can Google me and they'll find myriad of ways that they can get in touch with. But the easiest is, of course, my local district office phone number, which is 818-376-4246. My Sacramento office number, 916-319-2046. On the web, we're at a46.asmdc.org. And then there's also social media, whether Facebook or Instagram. On Facebook, you can just find me at Assemblymember Audreen Nazarian. On Instagram, it's Audreen Nazarian AD46.
Perfect. دوستان عزیز، با مسئولیت‌های اسمبلی ممبر آشنا شدید و همچنین دیستریکت 46 و همینطور چه مواردی رو میتونن ایشون به شما کمک رسان باشن. نقش اسمبلی ممبر، مواردی که ایشون میتونن یاری رسان شما باشن و چطور میتونید با ایشون تماس بگیرین. تلفن‌های تماس با استودیو رو هم اعلام میکنم که اگر مایل هستید سوالات خودتون رو با این عزیز مطرح کنید، بتونید امروز با استودیو تماس بگیرید. تلفن تماس هست 323 512 72 64. ایشون آمادگی پاسخگویی به سوالات شما رو دارن. Mr. Nazarian, if you don't mind, let's go and start with the legislative agenda that you were part of first. I want to focus on your legislative agenda today, and I have a hard time saying this word, and I kind of insist on saying it. But anyways, I wanted to know where I read about your activity in NRA, National Rifle Association, to pass a sensible gun law. Would you please explain about that for us?
Sure. I mean, first of all, your legislative agenda is based on your own personal experiences and your life experiences, where you come from, what you've brought with you, what your family circumstances have been, what your upbringing has been. So it's very reflective of your experiences. The gun legislation that I've worked on has been something that I've done with a great deal of effort with my fellow colleagues. When I first was elected to office in 2012, literally within days of being sworn into office, I was sworn in on December 3rd, and on December 14, 2012, there was the Sandy Hook shooting incident that took place that claimed innocent children's lives. And so when my colleagues and I were elected and sworn in and that incident happened, it just gripped us, and we wanted to take action. And we didn't want to see that something like that could happen in California. Months later, on April 15 of 2013, was when the Boston Marathon bombing took place. So there was a series of events that shaped our emerging classes, assemblies, assembly members' view on what we want to do to take meaningful steps. And unfortunately, gun laws are a federal issue. And so there isn't much we can do in whether we can allow or not allow gun usage. But what we can do is take steps to curb around the sides of gun-related issues. So over the course of the last 7-8 years, we've passed multiple laws impacting various ways that you can attain ammunition, how long it takes for you to be able to purchase a gun, what kind of background checks need to happen. Also dealing with issues having to do with how quickly you can use a cartridge in a semi-automatic weapon. Unfortunately, every time we pass legislation or laws, the manufacturers of guns come up with ways of getting around what it is we're trying to prohibit them from doing. And so they make things easy to use while we're trying to make it a little more difficult to use guns. And so there's this constant back and forth. And so it's been evolving and changing. But what we've tried to do is constantly address the needs, educate the public, and make sure that gun use is limited, so that we create a safer environment in California.
I sure hope so. The other thing that you were very active in it, and it was about health insurance. It was something that was to allow doctors to actually prescribe the medication rather than the health insurance companies. I also would like to find out about your activities in that area.
Sure, sure. I mean, one of the areas that I've been very actively involved is healthcare. In my tenure in the state legislature, because you see to what extent healthcare needs impacts the general public. People need to make decisions on whether or not they eat for that day or save up the money and pay for their medication. And for an advanced country of the wealth and resources that we have in the United States and in California, it's beyond embarrassing to think that our grandparents or individuals with disabilities have to, or just everyday individuals who have medical and healthcare needs, have to subscribe to such methods of cutting other activities of theirs in order to be able to afford healthcare, in order to afford visiting a doctor, in order to afford buying the prescription medication that they need. And so that's been an area that I've focused on for the last 7 years as well. I've had multiple pieces of legislation pushing back on insurance companies because a lot of times insurance companies are in the business of saying no. And I'm sure the listeners have had many experiences where their claim has been rejected or they need a life-saving surgery and they're told no. Well, they're told no because that's how insurance companies operate. They'll first say no until you push back, and then at some point it becomes a yes. But that period of time between the no to the yes takes a toll on the human body, may have even contributed to the worsening condition of a person's health. And that's unacceptable. And that's why we constantly work on trying to make sure that health outcomes are improved by ensuring that the insurance industry itself doesn't get in the way of some of an individual's healthcare needs.
That would be great. Thank you so much. I also want to talk about the housing, how you can help people with affordable housing, and also help the situation of homelessness. Something to provide for them, and hopefully they can get back on their feet as well. But what are your activities in that area?
So homelessness is a very first of all, we're in a crisis right now in the country, in the state, and specifically in LA County. And this has been an issue. We're at a point of crisis because for the last 50 years, we really haven't been making the important investments that we need. We haven't invested in mental health. We haven't invested in social safety net programs. We haven't supported our veterans when they've come back from war in order to address their health, their mental health needs. We've instead overprescribed medication in many cases instead of trying to have a better holistic view of addressing individuals' needs. And so when you look at the combination of all of these things happening, and then when you see that we don't build enough housing also in California. 20 years ago in California, we used to build over 200,000 units of housing. Now, we develop only about 80,000 units of housing. That's a reduction of almost 1/3. So in 20 years' time, the population has been growing while housing supply has been diminishing. What does that do? It arbitrarily just forces the existing housing price, the existing pool of housing prices to just go up. That's what we've seen the last 10 years. Housing prices go up so much that young children of parents who were able to afford buying homes 20, 30, 40 years ago, now when they want to buy a home and live near their parents, can't afford it anymore. And so homelessness has now been impacted by multitude of these different issues. The increased cost of housing, as well as the lack of all these other social and mental services, mental health services that weren't addressed. And now we're trying to address all of these in a very short period of time. And that's why you see these numbers growing.
That's the reason the numbers are growing. But you have things in mind that is going to help
Absolutely.
to decrease the numbers.
First of all, we need to spend a lot more money than we've had in the past. And the state has started spending upwards of $8 billion in the last 3 years in making critical investments in housing, in mental health, as well as in social services programs.
Thank you.
And one of the bills that I worked on was opening up state armories that are used for military purposes for sheltering homeless or during winter as well as summer months.
Thank you. دوستان با هم به چند پیام گوش میکنیم.
دنیای ما، جامعه ما.
AM لس آنجلس.
به به، چه عجب که به ما زنگ زدی.
هیچی نگو که حالا احوال نداره.
چرا؟ مگه چی شده؟
با یه کامیون تصادف کردم. ماشینم هم داغون شده. گفتم از تو بپرسم چیکار کنم، چرا که چند وقت پیش ستلمنت خیلی خوبی داشتی.
سوال نداره، معلومه دیگه. زنگ بزن به وکیل خودم، چرا که اگه اونو انتخاب کنی جکپات کردی.
جدی میگی؟ چطوری؟
من که تصادفم به شدت و جدیت مال تو نبود، طرفم هم بیمه تجاری نداشت، پیام شایانی برام کلی پول گرفت. چه برسه به کیس تو؟ اگه لاکی 7 رو بگیری چند برابر بقیه وکلا برات خسارت میگیرن. زنگ بزن به لاکی 7، چرا که در انتخاب وکیل جکپات کردی.
818 777 77 77 لاکی 7.
دکتر پاتریشیا بهزاد و متخصصین بیماری‌های دهان و دندان در الیت دنتال اند ایمپلنت سنتر در خدمت شما میباشند. در این مطب بسیار مدرن واقع در تارزانا کلیه خدمات دندان پزشکی زیر یک سقف به شما ارائه می‌شود. دکتر پاتریشیا بهزاد. تلفن 818 855 2909 818 855 2909 eliteimplant.dentist.com.
از اجاره نشینی و هدر دادن ماهانه پول و سرمایه تا خرید خانه دلخواهتون با کردیت رویایی، از یه بانکرپسی ساده که برای نجات دادن منزل یا ریفایننس کردن وام اون مجبور شدین فایل کردین، تا بانکرپسی که به خاطر بیش از $1,000,000 بدهی خودتون و بیزینستون فایل کرده، برای پاک کردن این پابلیک رکورد ها انریچ فاینانشال با کادری مجرب دلسوز مسلط به زبانهای فارسی، ارمنی، راشن در تمام شعبات کالیفرنیا، تنها واژه‌ای که برای شما عزیزان داریم در این سالها تجربه با هر مشکلی کادر من دست و پنجه نرم کرده و تنها پاسخ به تمام مشکلات شما واژه
1-800 اقبالی 1-800 344 2254.
با سلام، احمد باروتی هستم، مشاور امور مالی، مالیاتی و سرمایه‌گذاری برای ایجاد هر نوع سرمایه‌گذاری کوتاه و بلند مدت با درآمد بالا، تضمین کافی و امتیازات مالیاتی با من تماس بگیرید. 424 465 9000 424 465 9000.
با من نازنین باروتی، استیت پلنینگ اند تکس اترنی، برای ایجاد تراست، اسید پروتکشن و آوردن پول از ایران به آمریکا تماس بگیرید. 424 465 9000 424 465 9000.
خدمات رایگان بنیاد غیرانتفاعی کوشندگان، یاری رسانی به دانش آموزان نیازمند در ایران، کلاس‌های منطق و طیر، مثنوی، حافظ، سمینارها و سخنرانی‌های علمی، انتشار 8 جلد کتاب، شرح آثار عطار، مولانا و حافظ. با ما در ساختمان مدرسه در روستاهای نیازمند ایران همگام شوید. کلیه هدایای شما 100% تکس دیداکتبل می باشد. www.kef.today.
دکتر فربد مجد، وکیل طلاق و دعاوی حقوقی، نامی آشنا، وکیلی مجرب و برا، ترایل لویر با سابقه موفقیت بی‌نظیر در پرونده‌های طلاق با دارایی بالا و دعواهای حقوقی در مقابل هیئت ژوری، پشتکاری در کار و توجه دقیق به خواست موکل رمز موفقیت ماست. 310 956 4600 عضو 50-50 و 08 ایرانیان.
من سیامک شجریان، عهدهدار تدریس آواز و ترانه‌های ایرانی هستم.
من کیاوش نورایی، سازهای ویولون، پیانو و سنتور را آموزش می‌دهم.
پریسا دانشور هستم، مدرس نی و موسیقی کودکان.
مهدی باقری هستم، مدرس کمانچه، ستار و تئوری موسیقی.
میثاق اسحاقی هستم، مدرس کمانچه، تنبک و دف.
متین اسحاقی هستم، مدرس تار و ستار.
310 477 41 41.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I was sensitive to lights and sounds, so I built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. Sometimes I did the same things over and over, until one day I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
In 50 feet, turn left. Why are you driving so slowly?
After a few drinks, I'm taking it slow.
Well, you're not fooling the cop behind you.
What?
Get ready to pay in 0.1 miles.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Adopt US Kids presents multiple choice parenting.
You've messed up your daughter's haircut. Do you A, get spiritual?
Mom, where's the mirror?
Beauty is within. Oh.
B, find the positives.
Less time blow drying, more time texting?
Or C, show empathy.
Mom, you really don't have to.
Twinsies!
I kinda love it. You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on adoption, visit adoptuskids.org. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Right now, Doctors Without Borders medical teams are operating in some of the most remote and dangerous corners of the world. When front yards become front lines, at the crossroads of conflict and epidemic, where there are no hospitals, that's where we operate. Your response is critical to our response in places where few others will go. That's where we operate. Learn more at doctorswithoutborders.org.
President Trump has decided world leaders should not gather next year at one of his resorts in Florida. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer says the president should instead be assessing the aftermath of his decision to withdraw U.S. troops from Syria.
He never should have proposed a row to begin with, and he ought to be focusing instead of on what country club or place the G7 meets at curbing ISIS.
More than 300,000 students may miss another day of classes tomorrow in Chicago, the nation's third largest school district. Chicago Teachers Union Vice President Stacey David Gates says educators are on strike over the future.
I'm telling my son that we're fighting for the librarian that's no longer in your school. I'm telling my daughters that they deserve a nurse Monday through Friday in their school community. And that is what the adults are doing right now. And we hope to have something that represents the best for our children.
I'm Ann Cates.
KIRN 670 AM Radio Iran. Radio Iran.
دنیای ما، جامعه ما.
Our world, our community with Debbie Amini.
سلام مجددی دارم برای دوستانی که تازه به ما پیوستن. در خدمت اسمبلی ممبر آدرین نظریان هستیم از دیستریکت 46 و در فرصت کوتاه باقی مونده سعی می‌کنیم تا جایی که ممکن هست راجع به فعالیت‌های چشمگیر ایشون و خدماتی که ایشون میتونن به شهروندان مقیم دیستریکت 46 ارائه بدن صحبت کنیم. تلفن تماس با استودیو رو باز هم برای اون دسته از عزیزانی که دوست دارن سوالات خودشون رو با میهمان امروز مطرح کنند اعلام می‌کنم. 323 512 72 64. آقای نازاریان فعالیت‌هایی داشتن که تونستن نوروز باستانی ما رو و سلبریشن نوروز رو به سطح استیت بیارن. Mr. Nazarian, would you please tell me about the Nowruz celebration in the state? How did you help to bring the celebration to that, to this state?
Of course. Thanks for asking about it. So Nowruz celebration had been conducted at the city level, Los Angeles city level in City Hall. And it had been done, it had been celebrated in the federal government as well, in the White House. But it had never been celebrated in the state capitol. So I thought, in my first term of office, I thought, why not celebrate Nowruz, show the culture, the rest of California, what the Iranian culture is about, and bring something that's both festive, meaningful, and steeped in the rich history of Iran, this cultural aspect, and allow people to become better familiar. Unfortunately, with all the political rhetoric as well about Iran, some true and some not true, what you end up seeing is that the people of Iran become demonized. And it's one thing to hold the government, the regime accountable, but you don't want to see the people paying the price for it, especially when it's a nation that is so rich in history and culture. And so I thought it was important to highlight Nowruz, and did it actually with a lot of different participants. We had Armenians, Baha'i, Jewish Iranians, many different Iranians of different backgrounds come into the capital from all over the state, from San Diego, Los Angeles, San Jose, and celebrate. So we started it in 2014, and we've been doing it since, and it's gotten so big now that we actually use the governor's council room to hold these events. And so it's become a very unifying program.
It's perfect. On behalf of myself and all the Iranian, all the people who actually celebrate Nowruz, I want to thank you for that effort. It's just great. I also heard of a water forum coming up on November 1st that you're hosting. Would you please explain a little bit about that and how can people participate if they want?
Sure. Just to give you a little background, though, what ends up happening is in this job, because I'm in Sacramento about 7 to 8 months out of the year, 4 days a week, I hold a lot of different events and programs in the district so that it gives me an opportunity to meet with my constituents on a regular basis. So we have the annual water summit that takes place sometime in October to November, in the time that I'm home. We have hikes with your local elected official. I did a hike just about 3 weeks ago up in Mulholland with the tree people. I'm supposed to do a bicycle ride, and most likely along Chandler corridor. We host a lot of self-defense workshops for women. I've done probably about 80 to 90 now in the 7 years I've been in office. We do anywhere from 10 to 12 a year, and we invite women and everyone. Everyone is welcome, but it's a way of empowering, educating, and making sure that women, especially younger women, who unfortunately tend to be victimized most frequently, become aware of just a few different ways of protecting themselves and becoming more alert. Now, the one that you pointed out with the water summit, given the state of water in California, and given the needs that we have, given the where water is a very precious commodity that's used for both agricultural purposes as well as local urban consumption, I always try to make sure that I highlight what are some of the legislative efforts, what are some of the things that we're working on, and what are some of the challenges that we're trying to overcome. And so I bring in the Metropolitan Water District, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, as well as various state agencies, as well as farming groups to come and talk about how water is used and what are we doing at the state level to meet the demands of both making sure that we're replenishing our source of water, underground water, as well as investing in the infrastructure needed to make sure that the distribution of water is done equitably throughout the state.
That's great. I remember one of our previous guests, Mr. Nahai, also talked about this and the water conservation.
I work with Mr. Nahai quite a bit on water and climate-related issues as well.
Very nice, very nice. Also, one of the other activities, you have so many, there are a lot of things that you fought for. The other thing is bringing entertainment jobs back to our communities and helping with the film industries as well. What are your activities? What are the areas that you really had to fight for? Because I'm thinking that we're living in like Hollywood. That's the center of it. Why would you fight for it to bring it back? Isn't it there? Isn't it enough? What is the situation there?
Well, thank you for pointing it out that way, and that's been exactly the challenge we've been dealing with.
Okay.
When people have something for so long, they become complacent.
Mm-hmm.
And so we, as the state, as elected leadership, had really become very complacent at the benefits of having the entertainment industry and Hollywood right here in California. Because what happened is, over time, as technology advancements made it easier to do film shoots all over the world, or to work on music or post-production or any of the facets of entertainment industry, and with labor becoming more and more potentially transferable to other areas of the world, what ended up happening was we started losing a lot of entertainment industry jobs. We used to make all the blockbuster movies in the world right here in California. But if you look at what happened in 2003, we were only making 7 of the 12 blockbuster movies in California. By 2013, we were making 0 of the 12 blockbuster movies that were seen around the world in California. We were making 0 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that tells you to what extent we took it for granted and we didn't make the investments necessary to make sure that the jobs don't go to other countries and other states. Canada did a great job starting 30 years ago in taking a lot of our jobs. And then England and others, former Soviet states or former communist states, started taking our music jobs away. And so we've needed to make investments in making sure that we provide the tax credits to companies to continue making the movies here so that people don't leave here, don't move elsewhere to make movies in other countries or other states. That's been a primary focus. And then, and it's a focus because it impacts my constituents greatly. A lot of my residents in Studio City, Sherman Oaks, made their living over the generations in working as in production or post-production in the entertainment industry. So it was very important for me to make sure that they continue having their livelihood here. And the other facet of it is making sure that the workforce of the future continues to grow. So some of the workshops that I do now annually also is bringing entertainment industry experts and experienced individuals to meet with folks who want to get into the entertainment industry so that they can learn of ways of getting into the career market.
Very interesting. Mr. Nazarian, something came to my mind, especially because we talked about Nowruz and celebration. How old were you when you were born in Iran, right?
I was, yes.
You were born in Iran. Which city of Iran?
Tehran.
Very interesting. And then when did you move and did you come directly to America or stopped by other places on the way here?
Well, we unfortunately had to go a little bit of a circuitous path. But we were fortunate enough to be able to actually do it quickly. When the revolution started, my family wasn't thinking of leaving.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was a prominent architect in Iran and had a great career. The only thing he wanted to do was send the three of us, my siblings and I, to the United States so that we would get our degrees in the United States and go back and work in Iran the same way he did in the late 40s, early 50s. But when the war erupted in 81, my parents were very quick at moving my older brother out of the country. Mm-hmm. So my mother took my brother out to Cyprus, to Armenian boarding school in Cyprus, and that saved his life. He was there for 3 years. And then my mother quickly came back and got me out of the country because the country was already not allowing young boys to leave the country within 6 months of the war starting.
Mm-hmm.
So it was roughly about July when we left and had to go through Syria, Cyprus, Germany, and finally got our visas in Germany, came to the United States. And at that time, it was still easy. It was after that, months after that, that it became a very difficult route to go through Germany because the refugee camps were starting to get set up. And so then a lot of people started utilizing other places, Holland and Switzerland or Sweden. I have an uncle that's in Sweden that ended up staying there. You know, he ended up moving there and just stayed there. So my family dispersed through 3 different continents for a period of about 6-7 years. And my father was the last one to finally join us in 86, 85.
Wow.
In the United States.
So what part of this journey, like living in Iran or other places or coming here, did you grow up in San Fernando Valley or?
I did. When we first moved, my sister was already here because she was preparing to start college here. So my mother and I joined my sister and my aunt, and we were here for, we were living in the Hollywood Larchmont Village area. Mm-hmm. And then at some point we moved to Glendale, where there was a large Armenian and Iranian hub.
Mm-hmm.
And we were there for about 4 years until my father finally joined us. And then that's when we moved to San Fernando Valley because all of our work and schooling, my brother's education, my education were based in the San Fernando Valley area. So that's what brought us to the Valley.
And what brought you to becoming an assembly member, serving people in this area, District 46? What part of this journey?
If you asked me, I'm going to be running for office, I would have never believed you. Because given the Iranian culture, you
have to be a doctor or a lawyer.
You don't really. Well, there's no elected office.
Right.
There were appointed offices in the Majlis, but you weren't elected. And second of all, if you were appointed, you had to be of a certain community standing. So you don't think about it in the parameters of how open and available it is to you. But in the United States, the direct form of democracy, representative democracy, makes it available, makes itself available. In fact, it demands that you participate. And if you don't participate, then it's on you. But it expects you to participate so that your contribution makes the system better. And that's why it goes along with what I said earlier. It's your cumulative experiences that you bring in order for people to understand what the Iranian culture is about and not just go off of, 15-second news media. It's about my plant-based meals. When I started looking at what kids eat in schools and how much nutrition they are, they don't benefit from. Meanwhile, I grew up on ghormeh sabzi.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see that, in one meal, you get 10 to 15 different types of chopped up greenery, that's probably more nutrition I got in one meal than most of my peers did in the entire year.
So are you planning to serve قرمه سبزی at the schools from now? It's a great meal and it's yummy.
So I've introduced a plant-based meal so that we pay 10 cents more per student in California so that we give kids the option of having plant-based meals instead of processed foods. And so we're working on that. I'm now working with the governor's office to see if we can put some funding into this so that I bring the bill back next year and work on it. So, but again, those collective experiences of what you grew up with come into play with what you end up working on. And that's why I was, I think the benefits I've had from my upbringing are now hopefully things that I'm trying to bring about to the state government and to my constituents.
Children's nutrition is really important. I want to stay a little bit more on that subject because it has been like a concern for all the parents. I believe they introduced free breakfast at one time too. I don't know if they still continue that or not, but I think it is good. That was a great program. Although a lot of it goes to waste, but I think still it serves the purpose for those who need to have that free breakfast in the morning.
And let me just correct that for a minute. There's reports that food gets wasted, and it's true. It does get wasted, unfortunately. There's quite a bit of waste. But the reality is, on a day that schools are not meant to be closed, for example, in recent years when there's been multiple fires near the San Fernando Valley, if you were to drive by any school campus, you would see a line out the door, not just in the poor communities, but also in wealthy communities, in Studio City and in Sherman Oaks. You'd be surprised what this line is about. It's parents actually waiting to get the food for that day for their kids. That's how much need there is. So even though food is wasted on many occasions, the reality is also that there's a great need in our communities. In even wealthy communities that we would never think about there being a need in Sherman Oaks or Toluca Lake or Studio City. There is. You drive around any school campus on a day that the school is closed unexpectedly, you'll see a line out the door. And that tells you what kind of a demand there is. And it also tells you what kind of how disjointed our community is. That we could be living in a place where the housing prices are $1.2, $1.3 million on average, and yet there are people who are living in 1, 2, 3 families sharing a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment.
Wow.
A school. So we recently changed the school start time in California. I actually didn't agree with that bill, so I didn't support the bill. Because I think school districts address the needs of their parents and students based on local geography and whatever the needs are. You can't just say the start time is going to be 9 o'clock from now on for all areas of California because it's different in LA. What works in LA is not going to work in Fresno, in the farm areas of Fresno or Tulare County, for example, because the driving distance is much longer. And parents need to get to work, let's say on the farm fields, at a much earlier hour. So it becomes very challenging when you say everything has to work at this standard. The way we had it before was school districts are allowed to start school time at whatever time they feel appropriate within their districts. And I believe that didn't need to change.
We are kind of running out of time. وقت بسیار سریع میگذره و من قبل از خداحافظی میخوام که خدمت شما عزیزان به اطلاعاتون برسونم که یک شنبه آینده ساعت 1 در خدمت کانسل ممبر پول کورتس خواهیم بود از دیستریکت 5. We only have about 1 minute. Can you very quickly talk about the programs that you had for earthquake protection?
Absolutely. I grew up in the valley at a time when the 94 earthquake devastated us, devastated my family. My brothers condominium was townhouse was impacted. My sister's house was impacted. Our home luckily didn't sustain a lot of damage, but it had a lot of fractures in it. And when you see how prone of a place geologically prone we are in California we have over 220 active faults.
Mm-hmm.
And the most recent Ridgecrest earthquake actually ignited a very long-standing fault that had been remaining dormant for centuries.
Mm-hmm.
So given the geological activity that we have, I felt it was very important for us to make the appropriate investments, whether providing tax credits for business owners to be able to make investments in their commercial properties or apartment buildings. The other thing, going back to homeless, is that some of our affordable stock of housing, the apartment buildings that are used for affordable units, are the very buildings that are so old that would be the first to be deemed unlivable or uninhabitable if there was a major earthquake. So this has a very disproportionate impact, especially on our lower income community members.
Thank you so much. دوستان عزیز تا یک شنبه آینده ساعت 1 هفته بسیار خوبی رو برای یکایک شما عزیزان آرزو می کنم.
دنیای ما، جامعه ما.
Our world, our community with Debbie Amini.